This is CBC Vancouver News.
I would tell them to take this very, very seriously.
The son of a man accused in the 1985 Air India bombing officially warned by police that his life may be in danger. How this is affecting BC's Sikh community. Plus,
a lot of confusion, concern, and a level of panic.
Harrison Hot Springs declaring a local state of emergency and then quickly rescinding it. What conflict between elected officials has to do with it. Also, Vancouver Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet named NHL's Coach of the Year after a playoff run that reignited hope in the franchise. Hello, I'm Jessica Cheung. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with the ongoing drama over policing in Surrey. The province has confirmed that a court decision will be released tomorrow regarding a judicial review filed by the city. Now, the city is trying to overturn a decision from the Public Safety Minister, Mike Farnworth, in which he mandated the city transition from the RCMP to the municipally run Surrey Police Force. He also introduced legislation to essentially force the issue. Mayor Brenda Locke claims the police transition will cost taxpayers millions of dollars. BC Supreme Court Judge Kevin Liu will weigh in on the City of Surrey's application tomorrow. A duty to warn has been issued to the son of Ripudaman Singh Malik. He was acquitted in the 1985 Air India bombing that killed 331 people. Now, 2 years ago, he was gunned down outside his office in Surrey. In this exclusive CBC story, Evan Dyer breaks down what the letter to Hardeep Malik means and possible links to India as investigators look into the role that government may have played in other targeted killings.
The bombing of an Air India passenger jet, Canada's worst ever mass murder, with 329 killed. And Ripudaman Singh Malik was accused of being one of the conspirators. But prosecutors failed to make their case, and Malik was acquitted. Years later, Malik was shot and killed outside his office in Surrey. Now, CBC News has learned the RCMP is investigating whether the Indian government was behind that shooting and has warned his son his life could be under threat. By 2018, India's Narendra Modi government seemed ready to forgive Malik. He was able to get a passport and visit India, even go on TV there, where his brother thanked Samant Goel, the head of India's Foreign Intelligence Service, for making the trip happen. Goel was recently identified as a key figure in a U.S. indictment alleging an Indian government plot to kill a close collaborator of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the Sikh activist who was also gunned down in Surrey last year. Canada has accused India of being responsible. Then there was this man, Emergence Singh of India's consulate in Vancouver, who helped Malik to get his name off the blacklist and befriended him, and whose name appears in Malik's phone next to 3 calls to Malik the night before his murder, and then to an exchange of WhatsApp messages in the very early morning, about 4 hours before Malik was shot by 2 men who investigators believe were contract killers. And in Malik's agenda, a cryptic entry right at the hour when he died, Amarjit lunch. At the school he ran in Surrey, Malik's son Hardeep, also a businessman, has stepped into his father's shoes as a board member. Last week he received a warning police are required to give when they have solid intelligence of a threat against someone's life.
At this point, given what's happened with some of the murders and assassinations that have taken place and how easy it is to find a gun for hire, I would tell them to take this very, very seriously and look at possibly relocating for a period of time.
We don't know specifically what prompted this warning to Hardeep Singh Malik, but generally we're told that these duty to warn letters are issued when a confidential informant or a wiretap tips police off to an actual plan or an actual conspiracy. Vague rumors would not be enough. Of course, it also suggests that the reconciliation between the government of India and the Malik family may not have been as genuine as the family would have hoped, and that some of the dangers that hung over the father may have actually been inherited by the son. But there are some in the community who have a very simple explanation for this and who simply believe that this is the government of India trying to sow discord and confusion in the Canadian Sikh community. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
What's next for London Drugs after the company fell victim to a ransomware attack that closed their stores across the country for a week? The BC-based retailer says it won't pay the sum being demanded by cyber criminals, even if employee data is in jeopardy. Michelle Gassoub tells us why.
The cybersecurity breach that forced London drug stores to close across Canada now confirmed as a ransomware attack. The cyber criminals threatening to leak stolen files on the dark web if that ransom isn't received. But London Drugs doesn't plan on paying up, saying in a statement, London Drugs is unwilling and unable to pay ransom to these cyber criminals. We acknowledge these criminals may leak stolen London Drugs corporate files, some of which may contain employee information on the dark web. This is deeply distressing. According to one threat analyst, not paying the ransom is the right move.
London Drugs has made absolutely the right decision in deciding not to pay. If nobody paid ransoms, there would be no more ransomware. It really is that simple.
Callow says attacks like these are becoming increasingly common. Last year, $1 billion was paid to ransomware companies.
And the cyber criminals don't really care if the organization is big or small. They just care if they have a budget that they can use to potentially pay a ransom attack.
London Drugs says so far there's no indication patient or customer data was compromised. The company now offering employees 2 years of credit monitoring and identity theft protection.
The good news is that there is no evidence that ransomware groups routinely use data that they've stolen to commit identity fraud. They are more interested in collecting the big multi-million-dollar payouts and moving on to the next victim than they are in making much smaller sums from identity fraud.
London Drugs COO previously told CBC News he believed international threat actors were behind the attack, which forced nearly 80 locations to shut down. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
And it's not only London Drugs dealing with cyber criminals. The province confirms the First Nations Health Authority was hit by a cybersecurity attack last week, but it's not related to the other recent data breaches in BC.
It is different from what the province faced, and it is also different from what the London Drugs incident was.
It's not yet clear if private information was compromised. Now to Harrison Hot Springs, where a local state of emergency was suddenly declared, even though there was no imminent danger to the community. But not even 24 hours later, that state of emergency has been canceled. Chad Pawson has more on the latest in a series of internal conflicts plaguing local council.
Harrison Hot Springs, 4 councillors and mayor at a special meeting at the village office where the mayor declared a state of local emergency and approved spending over wildfire mitigation, even though there is no imminent danger.
You can't do that. That is an expenditure of council that needs to be approved. Stop it, Mr. Allen. You do not have the floor.
The mayor should speak.
You do not have the floor.
Outbursts and conflict like this have defined this council. Mayor Ed Wood claims 3 councillors are conspiring against him, trying to limit his role. But he argues the local state of emergency is very much needed to keep the village's 1,500 residents safe, along with tens of thousands of tourists who come each year.
We are an extremely dysfunctional council. Last night's council meeting was an example of how everything can go wrong. It's extremely embarrassing, disappointing, disrespectful. If we are going to protect the people of this village, then action needs to be taken now.
An opposing councillor doesn't disagree with action, but says the state of local emergency was an overreach, especially with no imminent danger. Mickey Vidal says it's creating confusion, and she's been busy responding to it.
Fielding calls and texts and emails from residents and our business community, and what the actions that Mayor Wood took have caused a lot of confusion, concern, and a level of panic
In the end, the state of local emergency in Harrison was only in place for 1 day. Mayor Ed Wood says the province didn't support it, so he was forced to take it down. Now he'll have to go back to his council and try to work with them. It's something the province has been asking for since last fall. The Minister of Municipal Affairs has no plan to further intervene, meaning it could be a tough 2 years for Harrison's council. The next municipal election is not until October 2026. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
A deal has been reached between workers at the Hudson Space store in Kamloops and the company, ending a nearly 6-month strike. The workers walked off the job back in December and have been picketing outside the Hudson Space store at Aberdeen Mall since then. Now the company says a new contract has been ratified, and this comes after a provincially appointed mediator helped resolve the dispute. Details of the settlement have not yet been shared. In Nanaimo, a dispute over a parking spot ended with broken windows and a family being bear sprayed. And it happened in a Walmart parking lot over the long weekend, and it all started when one driver cut off another. Both men got out of their cars and started arguing, and that's when one bear sprayed the other, including his children who were in the car with him. In response, the dad smashed the other guy's windows with a tire iron. RCMP are still looking for the driver with the bear spray. The man and all 4 children were treated by paramedics on scene. A Vancouver police officer has been fined for careless driving, and it comes almost 2 years after he hit and seriously injured a pedestrian on the downtown east side. Earlier this month, Constable Jack Zhao admitted he was speeding, going faster than the 30-kilometer-per-hour speed limit on that stretch of East Hastings. He pleaded guilty to careless driving and was fined the maximum penalty of $2,000. But 2 other charges against Zhao were stayed, and he remains an active member of the VPD. And this week, a VPD car struck a pedestrian walking on East Hastings near Dunlevy Avenue. And this one happened late Monday night. It is the second police-involved pedestrian collision on that same stretch of road in less than 2 years. BC's police watchdog is investigating and says the pedestrian was sent to the hospital with serious injuries.
This incident yesterday is extremely disturbing. I mean, I think it's a sign that the police are not accountable to the downtown east side. They have lost the trust of the people here.
According to data from ICBC, the downtown east side has some of the most dangerous intersections in the province for pedestrians. The province is reviewing protocols on how the public is notified when a dangerous offender is let out of prison. And this comes after a letter from Surrey's mayor complaining that too many criminals are being released into her city. And as Mira Baines reports, the business community agrees, saying it's damaging Surrey's image.
The province says it's reviewing how BC Corrections and the police notify the public when a dangerous offender is released from prison. Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says BC Corrections does not have authority over where a person chooses to live after their release.
There are protocols in place. A lot of them come from the federal system. There are guidelines that have been in place. In some cases, they are required by the RCMP to meet particular guidelines when it comes to things such as notification.
Farnworth is facing pressure from Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke, who issued a statement urging the province and federal public safety minister to review the sentencing, release, and monitoring of high-risk sex offenders. The president of the Surrey Board of Trade is also weighing in.
Well, it hurts the brand of our cities.
The messaging from the city comes after the release of Azaz Razak and a warning from RCMP. Razak completed his federal prison sentence for sexually assaulting 2 women in 2017. RCMP said last Friday that he poses a serious and imminent risk to vulnerable women and intimate partners. Huberman says the province has a role to play.
They have a leadership role to, say, hey, federal government, we need you to work with us. There's a community that for the 3rd time is having another dangerous sex offender being released into the community.
Huberman pointed out it's the 3rd release of its kind in about 6 weeks. Surrey RCMP issued 2 other warnings in April. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
The province has opened the doors to a new jail on Vancouver Island.
The capacity here is 200. It can increase to 220. The facility is designed to the latest security systems and standards, as well as ensuring in terms of rehabilitation programs.
The Nanaimo Correction Centre has cost BC taxpayers $181 million. It is space for addictions treatment and counseling, as well as a dedicated unit for women. Thousands in Iran are mourning the death of President Ibrahim Raisi. But around the world, including here in Vancouver, many are celebrating, with some saying it marks a new beginning for the country.
Ever since they came to power, I always felt this is a nightmare. I couldn't believe it. And still I feel like it's a nightmare. It's not real. I always wish one day in the morning I wake up and this nightmare is gone.
Dozens gathered at Ambleside Park in West Vancouver today, chanting, dancing, and cheering. Raisi was known for being a hardliner, restricting women's dress and behavior, and brutally cracking down on protests. He was killed in a helicopter crash last week near the Azerbaijan border, along with 7 others, including Iran's foreign minister. A heavy windstorm blew across parts of BC last night, causing power outages in Metro Vancouver, the Sunshine Coast, and Vancouver Island. Nearly 9,000 BC Hydro customers woke up to no power. Winds along parts of the South Coast were clocked at 90 kilometers per hour, toppling trees and making for a big cleanup this morning. After the break, the Canucks season may be over, but there's still one more reason to celebrate. Head coach Rick Tocchet is NHL's Coach of the Year. More on that next. Well, he may have only had one full season as the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, but Rick Tocchet has been named this year's NHL Coach of the Year. The Jack Adams Award is voted on by the NHL Broadcasters Association. Tocchet helped the Canucks finish first in the Pacific Division, and he brought Vancouver through a great run in the Stanley Cup playoffs, where they lost to the Edmonton Oilers in Game 7. Tocchet is the third Canucks coach to win the award, and in a statement, he says he is truly honored and humbled by this achievement, that the fans were a huge part of the team's success this season. And in the run-up to this summer's Olympics in Paris, toy maker Mattel is fielding a whole new team of Barbies. And among 9 female athletes, Canada's very own soccer superstar Christine Sinclair will be getting her own Barbie. Take a look.
One of Canada's greatest athletes just got her own Barbie doll.
To be sitting here with my actual Barbie is just a huge honor.
Christine Sinclair, the Burnaby-born soccer legend, has been recognized by Mattel for being the leading international scorer in women's soccer, with 190 goals in 331 appearances for Canada.
I am a firm believer that you need to see it to believe it. As a young kid, for myself growing up, I didn't have female athlete role models to look up to. I hope to show especially young girls, obviously, that anything is possible.
And as part of Barbie's 65th anniversary, Mattel has also honored 8 other athletes. Mattel says by shining a light on international athletes, they hope to champion the belief that every young girl deserves the opportunity to pursue her passions and turn her dreams into reality.
And here's a live shot of Harbor Center, and the weather has been giving us some whiplash with wind and rain last night, turning into some sun today. So what's in store for us this week in terms of the weather? We will have your full forecast next.
So I know when I really like a song, if within the first 3 seconds, I'm already vibing to it.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond.
It's not one person dictating what good music is, it's the community sharing what good music is.
Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
Welcome back. And it's an incredible occurrence of nature, but tough luck if you don't like insects. Cicadas are beginning to emerge throughout the southern and midwestern regions of the U.S. Billions of the loudly buzzing insects are expected thanks to a double brood. Now, this is a rare phenomenon not seen in centuries, where the 13-year periodical cicadas pop up at the same time as the 17-year brood. The insects spend years living underground before emerging together briefly to mate and die.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Now it's time to check in with our Darius Madavi for the weather forecast in BC. It was really windy last night and there was a lot of rain. Is that something that we can think of sticking around for the forecast?
Fortunately, not too much. We do have some rain on the way, as you can see, but nothing like those winds, something like that heavy rainfall that we had yesterday. In the end, we did manage to get that 50-plus millimeters Environment Canada warned about on parts of the North Shore, like West Vancouver and Maple Ridge, but we only saw pretty much just above that 55 millimeters at most. And we saw those really strong winds blowing that people on the island and here in Vancouver felt. Meanwhile, in the interior, again, not going to see too much excitement, but we do have some thunderstorm activity on the way. I know they had a bit of a calmer day yesterday compared to us, but over today and tomorrow, they get a little bit more activity as those thunderstorms do form in a few places. It's just a small risk of a thunderstorm in many of these places, but it will happen. It's just this convective activity as temperatures come back up and the sun starts beating down on the ground again. The air will rise, and then some instability in the air means we get some thunderstorms. So it's really, that risk is blanketing the southern half of the interior, as well as coming to some places like the Peace. So be aware that it's not entirely sure where they might pop up, but we might get a few lightning strikes. Hopefully the cooler and drier weather that we've had recently will mean that even if we do get some dry lightning, it won't cause too many or hopefully any new fire starts, but something that we'll be keeping an eye on. As you saw here in terms of the rainfall, not too much excitement coming, a little bit of activity for the coast, and then just those convective showers in the interior. But again, as those temperatures come up, some more thunderstorm activity. Tomorrow they stay high like today, or around seasonal really, before dropping a little bit on Friday as we have another cold front pass through, but just a minor one. Temperatures don't come down too much. Saturday looks pretty similar. Some places on the north and central coast see temperatures come down a little bit more, but other than that, some places like here in Vancouver, we come back up to seasonal. But again, only variations here on the coast of a couple degrees, so not too much excitement. Here you see some of that thunderstorm activity in some places in the south, as well as places in the Caribou and up in the Peace, but that's really all the excitement we have. Here in Vancouver, we have that same flip-floppy weather that we were looking at before, but not anything too exciting. No major rain, no major wind, so it's May.
All right, it is. Yeah, rain and sun. We got all the varieties. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
And that is your late news for this Wednesday, May 22nd. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online at cbc.ca/BC. Thanks for watching and have a great night.